Hey, it's Marley from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for Thursday, August 25th. So we have the moon in Leo all day. This, again, is a little bit of a refresher, a little bit of a reminder on what Leo season was all about. Of course, the moon in Leo is a fire energy, so we are a little bit more perkier, more peppier than we've been while the moon was in Cancer energy for the last couple of days, of course. We're feeling bold, we're feeling brave, we're feeling a little bit courageous to go after what it is that we want. We have big feels. We are a little bit excited, borderline manic, about something that we might not even be aware of taking place. We just have that excitement and anticipation building. And with the energies here today, again, another big day of planetary shifts, we do really have to be a little bit more mindful about how we're going to manage this energy. We can kind of be a little bit extra, a little bit over dramatic if we're not careful. We can tend to bite off a little bit more than we can chew under this influence as well. And just be mindful that we are kind of moving into the dark phase of the moon as we approach the new moon in Virgo on Saturday. So with the moonlight decreasing in the night sky, we do kind of sit in our shadow selves, our deeper, darker thoughts and emotions and memories a little bit more than we would prefer in order for us to kind of have these realizations on what is ending and yet what is beginning. So Mercury will be moving into Libra here today, which means that we are going to be feeling that pressure of Mercury reaching the final degrees of that Virgo energy, its place of power, which means that we got a lot going on in our heart space because of the moon in Leo. We got a lot going on in our head space because of Mr. Mercury. Hopefully the heart and the head will align more times today than not, but just be aware that we could feel an overwhelming intensity and pressure building in our inner realms and yet not have a good reason in our outer realms for that particular energy to be manifesting. There are 12 different aspects here today, and 9 of them involve the moon. So right out of the gate, we're going to have a little bit of a large energy coming at us because the moon in Leo will be trining, which is a beautiful energy, a harmonious interaction with Jupiter. Jupiter, of course, all about growth, improvement, beliefs, abundance. He does tend to magnify and turn the volume all the way up on our thoughts, on our feelings. Even though he is retrograde in Aries, again, a fire energy. Leo is a fire energy. Aries is a fire energy. So we are all fired up. And again, feeling a little bit extra, feeling a little bit manic. There are very high points of excitement, of enthusiasm, of confidence, of optimism. And like I said, every single time that we're riding high, there is a high probability that we will have an aspect to bring us down a couple of pegs. Now, this energy seems rather big, again, in our inner realm, more so than our outer realm. We are in Virgo season now in Earth energy, which means that we have to really take special attention, special notice on what's going on in our inner realms because we have a very, very strong ability in Virgo season to manifest, to create, to give birth to whatever's going on in our mental plane and in our heart space. So, like I said, we usually have a high, and then we have an aspect to bring us down a couple of pegs. And shortly after the moon trines with Jupiter, we have Venus, the goddess of love and beauty and worth and pleasure. She's in Leo energy as well, so rather on the big feels side as well. But she's entering into the boxing ring, having a little bit of a conflict, a little bit of a tension point with the true node. The true node is our soul's path, our destiny point, where it is that we're trying to get on the right path in order to reach our soul's potential, our soul's purpose and mission. This square suggests that emotionally speaking, we don't know what we want. We don't know what we need. We don't know what it is that we actually desire. That can be a problem because when Venus is in Leo, if you listen to the astro forecast, you would know that we have a lot of big feels. We are in love with love. We think anything is possible. We tend to put ourselves out there in a way that we normally wouldn't. We are a lot more raw, a lot more authentic, a lot more vulnerable. But with that being said, we also want more for ourselves. And when we want more for ourselves, although that's great, it gives us the inspiration and motivation to make some changes to go after what it is that we want. Sometimes it leaves us in this present moment feeling less than, having that less than, lacking, scarcity mindset, being very aware of what it is that we don't currently have and what it is that we want more of that we don't have in this present moment. This is where the tension's going to come out. And especially entering into the boxing ring with this conflict, with this tension on our path forward, this is why there's a little bit of confusion. Keep in mind, we are moving into the dark phase of the moon. Things are supposed to get a little bit down, a little bit somber, a little bit serious, a little bit crazy, chaotic. We are maybe preparing for a little bit of an emotional and mental breakdown, because after that new moon energy hits, we're going to have a breakthrough. This is where the clarity comes. This is where new seeds get planted, new intentions come into realization. But the days prior to that new moon energy, boy, we are definitely struggling to figure out what it is that we're thinking and feeling and where it is that we need to go from here. Things get a little bit more cray-cray and confusing when the moon goes ahead and interacts with Neptune, who is retrograde in Pisces in its place of power. This is overwhelming, okay? So what we've been learning is that when the moon is in Leo, things are big, things are grand, things are just, oversized and extra in our feels, in our intentions, in situations, in our dramatics. Neptune energy, when aspected in a negative way, tends to get overwhelmed very easy because we're very overstimulated. We're hypersensitive. Our intuition, although is strong, is almost non-functioning because we're picking up on so much subtle energy that we don't really know what is ours and what belongs to other people. And so being the escape artist of the zodiac and this Piscean energy, we tend to want to numb. We want to run. We want to hide. We don't want to deal with life. Things just become too much in our inner realms. And like I had mentioned to you, we got a lot going on in our inner realms that aren't necessarily matching the events going on in our outer realms. This is a prime example of that. And because we're kind of all up in our feels and we have this magnifying glass and the volume all the way up on our feels, this can be a time where we just want to kind of check out of reality, disassociate, and live in la la land until this emotional intensity passes. The moon is going to semi-square, which is also a tension point, with Mercury. So this is Mercury's last aspect before moving into Libran energy, which means that Mercury is at the last degrees of Virgo, of its place of power. This is huge amounts of pressure on the head. Huge amounts of information being processed in our mental plane. This is kind of like us trying to wrap up what Mercury being in Virgo was all about, which is about providing solutions, stability, reorganizing, reprocessing our daily lives, our thoughts, our inner narratives. We're definitely having to take a good look at what it is that we allow to take place in our mental plane. Because again, in Virgo energy, it's mind over matter. We have the potential to birth, to create elements that we allow our mental plane to focus on, good, bad, or otherwise. That's why it's so important to become mindful and be in control over your thoughts and over your emotions, because most people are walking around creating, manifesting a reality that they don't want to be living in because their mental plane is focused on fear-based, stressed out points of view. So the moon semi-squaring, which is a tension point with Mercury, means that our heart and our head are not on the same page. It's hard for fire energy and the earth energy of Virgo to be on the same page, because the fire energy of Leo wants to be fired up, wants to take action, wants to make a move, wants to kind of, aggressively pursue our new passions and desires, whatever little excitement and flutters our heart has been experiencing. And of course, Mercury being in Virgo energy, we're not taking action on anything until we've contemplated all aspects of the consequences of our actions. It's almost like the moon in Leo is focused on the greater, grander outcome, while this mercurial energy in our mental plane doesn't want to think about the outcome, needs to focus in on the smaller details in order to create that outcome. That's why there's a disconnect. And, the fire energy being a spark, being a fire, being a flame, just lighten up the world. Well, if there's too much energy coming from our heart space, from impulse, from wanting to take action, from wanting to just, go out in the world and have new experiences, if that overrides our logic and practicality, our intellect of the mental plane, we're sure going to burn the forest down, aren't we? Mind you, if we put too much thought into, whatever it is that we are looking to take action on, too much of that earth energy, what happens when you take a shovel full of dirt and throw it on a campfire? You put the fire out altogether. There goes the passion, there goes the excitement, there goes the spark, there goes the desire. So the goal is always to balance. But because this is a semi-square, this is a tension point, which means that we're going to feel uncomfortable in order to figure out the right balance between the passion, the desire, the excitement going on in our heart space that we really want to pursue, that we want to take action on, and balancing that out with the logic, practical strategy that we have to take in order to actually be successful in taking action and making a move, and not just burning ourselves out before we ever reach that outcome. We have the sun making a very harmonious aspect with Pluto. This is a beautiful energy. So keep in mind, the sun is in Virgo energy. The sun is shining a bright light on our physical realms, on our physical bodies. And Virgo energy wants to kind of examine, break things down, get down to the nitty gritty of the details of our lives to figure out where things are out of whack, where there are problems, where there are issues, so that we can solve them. Very much the analytical, mind space that we need to figure things out. And Pluto energy is the great transformer, really doing a deep dive in the psyche. So we got a lot of commonalities between the Virgo energy and the Pluto energy, because they're both very focused on the mental plane, what we need to shift, what we need to change, what we need to solve in our thinking, in our mental space, in order to create a new reality, in order to, make that transformation, that change, that shift. So what we got going on here is an opportunity to have some aha moments where some beautiful solutions emerge. And this is definitely going to be an energy where we rise to the challenge, rise to the occasion to actually solve some of our problems, even if it means that it's going to be challenging us to level up, to do things differently, to push through mental blockages, to process our emotions in a different way. We are up to the challenge. Why? Because we want change. We want transformation. We want a different outcome. We want a different reality. Many of us are realizing now that it's going to take the hard work that we have been avoiding doing in our mental plane for our mental health, in our heart space where our emotional health is concerned, in our spiritual space where our spiritual health is concerned, but mostly because we're in Virgo energy, it means rolling up our sleeves and getting our hands dirty to rearrange and reorganize our physical lives. There's a lot of clutter. There's a lot of junk from the past. There's a lot of unfinished projects. There's a lot of just, there's a lot of old stuff taking up current space where we need that space for new elements to actually be born and birthed into. So in order for us to actually be able to manifest the next chapter, the next phase of our dream and our vision, we got to clean the space up. And if you've been listening to me for any amount of time, you would often hear me say that sometimes It starts with having to clean up and organize our physical environment in order for our mental health to resolve a little bit. Our mental health is greatly impacted by what we choose to surround ourselves with. And a lot of the times, like when you take the rooms in your house, you can actually tell what somebody is going through in their mental realm by the state of certain rooms in their house. So Virgo season is all about, cleanliness and, getting things in order, especially where there's been chaos. We want to create order. This is about our physical realms, our physical environments, and how our physical circumstances impact our mental health. Because again, Mercury, ruler of the mental plane, rules over Virgo, and how what we allow to take up space in our mental plane creates circumstances in our physical reality. Mind over matter. Mind impacts matter. This is a huge lesson, but interacting with Pluto in this way does suggest that we are rising to the challenge. We are able to come up with solutions. And this actually is going to be very, very celebratory for us, for many of us, because these are the puzzle pieces that we've been lacking on how it is that we're going to break free from our past, from our present, in order to create new in our future. So the moon is going to go ahead and bump into Mars in a very positive way, which is a beautiful energy because the fire energy of Leo works very well with the air energy of Gemini. So Mars being the god of war, ruling over the physical energy, our drive, our passion, our desire, even our anger, being in Gemini energy, we're still kind of acclimatizing. I don't even know how to say that properly, but you know what I mean. We're adjusting to this particular energy. It is going to be a long haul. Again, if you haven't listened to the Astro Forecast, take a listen. It does take us into March 2023, so it is a significant astrological event. But basically, this is a beautiful energy for us to be blending our heart space with our intellect, getting that creativity flowing, those ideas going through our processing features. We are inspired, we are motivated, we are determined, we are aggressive in pursuing the new passions, the new ideas that are currently being triggered and activated within us. This is a beautiful shift in energy, likely adding some pep to our step in all the right ways. And again, using our physical energy to kind of navigate the, I'm going to say, intellectual playing field of the strategy that we have to come up with in order to bring some of the dreams, some of the passion, some of the desires under this Leo energy to life. Now, the moon goes ahead and trines, which is a beautiful energy, with Chiron, the wounded healer, who is retrograde in Aries energy. What this means, especially feeding off of the previous aspects, is that we are making a huge amount of improvement here, a huge amount of progress. We are not only seeing where it is that we have to grow, but we are taking action both in our mental plane and our physical realms to align with actually overcoming some of the blockages, some of the challenges that we've been faced with. This emotionally speaks of us kind of tapping into our warrior energy to slice through the pain, the fears, the insecurities, the doubts that have been holding us back, and really freeing us, liberating us to charge forward in the pursuit of happiness, of our dreams, of our desires. But just as I've been saying, when we take one step forward, those dark force energies like to kick in to bring us that one or two steps back. We have the moon squaring, again, entering into the boxing ring with the true node, our soul's path, our soul's destiny point. Well, why is this? Well, it's because we don't necessarily know the next step to take. We feel good, we're inspired, we're motivated, we're all charged up. But again, we're in Virgo season, which slows us down. Earth energy tends to go low and slow because there's no room for error. We have to be very calculated with how it is that we're dispersing our energy, what it is that we're focused on, what it is that we're pouring into. And although we just had a high of having, our brains click, solutions appear, we have mustered up the courage and the bravery to go ahead and face these challenges. We are seeing the growth, seeing the improvement. We are inspired. We're motivated. Now what? What are we actually doing? What action are we actually taking? What direction are we actually walking in? This is where the confusion comes in. And with confusion comes doubts, comes insecurities. This is where we start talking fear into our dreams. This is where we start, losing that vibrant, passionate energy that many of us just got triggered and ignited with. Now, this is almost the point where things fall apart. But lucky for us, the moon in Leo comes up to, sits next to, bumps into, conjuncts with Venus, who, as you know, is also in Leo energy. This is big feels, people. This is big energy in our heart space. This is confidence, optimism. This is enthusiasm, right? This is also a little bit of drama. Caution note, we can be overly dramatic. We can be a little bit much. We can be overly friendly. Okay. Like we are putting ourselves out there. The heart and soul of the zodiac wants to entertain and to be entertained, wants to be seen, wants to be heard. Venus, who is trying to sort out, her values and her worth and what makes her happy and what brings her joy and pleasure, what she wants in a romantic partner, what she wants to do creatively. She's got a lot going on. She's trying to figure a lot out, but she's riding a high right now. And this could, even though this is a positive aspect, doesn't mean that bad things need to happen, but you could have too much of a good thing. We could be too friendly. We could be too extra. We could be too optimistic, too confident, too enthusiastic. We could actually be too self-indulgent, throwing ourselves into what makes us happy, what brings us joy, what brings us pleasure. One would say, well, how is that a bad thing? Okay, well, you ever sit down with a bucket of ice cream? You ever finish that ice cream off? I mean, it brings a lot of happiness, brings a lot of joy until you're at the bottom of the barrel and then suddenly you feel like a slob and you overindulge and now you feel gross, right? You ever, feel like you want to go out into the world and socialize and you're being a little bit fun and flirty and then suddenly you see that you put yourself out there in such a way now you got a stage 5 clinger following you around everywheres, right? Too much of a good thing. It's all about balance, people. This is another lesson in balance, but the moral of the story is just when we found ourselves in a mini funk, this particular energy pulled us out very, very quickly. And it's a good thing because we're at this very pivotal point, 9:03 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where Mercury jumps out of that place of power in Virgo, successfully maneuvers through that crisis degree, which is adding a lot of anxiety, anticipation, excitement, if you will, in the central nervous system that added to this moon and Venus conjunction, putting ourselves out there, being a little bit extra. Mercury moves into Libra. So if you haven't listened to this astro forecast, I'm going to ask that you go do that. But basically, we're looking to find peace and harmony and balance within ourselves, within our lives, our circumstances, our relationships. Things are going to be a little bit funky though, because as you may or may not know, Mercury is preparing to go retrograde on the 9th. Will retrograde in Libran energy, then backtrack, taking its place of power back in Virgo energy to sort out, reorganize, restructure, reprocess some of the things that are likely going to pop off, especially in our relationships from now until the 9th. And then from the 9th, backtracking through these degrees of Libran energy, where things will likely get a little bit extreme, a little bit messy. That's what we do in Libran energy, is we like to find a grounding point, peace, and balance through living and thinking and feeling in the extremes of life. So it is going to be quite a journey. I do recommend you listen to the astro forecast to give you a little bit better of an idea of what we're going to be dealing with for the next couple of months here. But this is going to definitely lighten the vibe just a tad, but it is going to be I'm going to say sudden, noticeable shift in energy, especially in our mental plane. Things get kind of spacey, a little bit daisy, if you will. We tend to want to stick to the shallow end of conversation and thoughts and ideas while in Libran energy, which is going to be a very sudden shift from being so blindly focused on the smaller details. Now we're looking to kind of balance things out a bit, which will be a sudden shift. And the whole purpose, I guess, let's say, is to get our heart and our head on the same page. But our heart space, again, with this Leo energy and this Libran energy coming in from the mental plane, could be a whole lot of energy that we can't manage. Just a whole lot of intensity, a whole lot of pressure going on in our heart space and our head space that don't necessarily align and agree. So we will be feeling pretty extreme later on in the day. The moon is going to make a positive interaction with Neptune. So earlier in the day, we had a little bit of a negative interaction where we just kind of wanted to check out, disassociate, numb, not deal with life, just check out of reality a little bit. Not so much this way. This positive interaction means that we are using our heart space, the moon in Leo. We're using our emotions, this spark, this fire, this passion, this desire for good, with the Neptune energy that has us really aligned with our intuition, has us envisioning, dreaming about what it is that we want for ourselves, what it is that we want to manifest. And this is just helping the dream grow. This is getting us in alignment with our heart space, with our higher self, getting on the same page. It's not overwhelming anymore. It doesn't feel like something we want to run from. It seems like a very creative type of energy that will give us a lot of intuitive and psychic insight on the dream and on the vision that we actually want to bring into manifestation, that we actually want to create, we actually want to give birth to. And then to wrap the day up, we have the moon entering into the boxing ring. Again, a little bit of tension, a little bit of conflict with Uranus. And as you know, Uranus just went retrograde yesterday. If you haven't listened to that astro forecast, please do so. We have all the heavy hitting planets now in a retrograde, which means that there's a lot of reflection to do, a lot of revision, a lot of redoing, rebuilding, revising, re-editing, reprocessing, okay? And then, of course, once that's all over with, we will recalibrate as these heavy-hitting planets prepare to go direct. But right now, we have the moon entering into the boxing ring with the Great Awakener, Mr. Uranus himself, who is now retrograde to take us on an inner journey to see where it is that we've been blocking ourselves from making the kind of growth and progress that we were hoping to make because we've been too overly attached to people, possessions, titles. This is the materialistic realm that we have gotten too intertwined with. We have to recognize where if some of these elements were taken away from us, what that would do to who it is that we think that we are. And recognizing that this is time for a great change, for a great shift. But the awakening that's going to come from this inner reflection is taking place in our inner realms. We don't have outside situations popping off, shaking us up and waking us up to the truth. This is going to be an inner reflection. An inner aha moment. So right now, the moon being in Leo, again, very grand in its dreams and its visions, very bold, very brave, very courageous, very excitable, very out there and extra, is kind of entering into this quiet, introverted boxing ring where, you know, the Great Awakener wants to do some inner reflection. We don't really want to act out. We want to just sit and do the inner reflection needed in order to see where we're resisting change. The moon in Leo wants us to change, wants us to go after our heart space, our soul space, our mission, our purpose. And this Uranian energy is like, listen, we have to figure out where the mental and emotional blocks are kind of preventing the progress inside of us in order to understand why things aren't going the way that we were hoping that they would go in our outer realm. So this does kind of create a little bit of friction, a little bit of conflict. It's meant to. A square is always meant to create this tension and conflict in order to show us where change is needed the most. And because, this Uranus energy is now on an inward journey to identify where it is that we're blocking ourselves from moving forward, we really got to get real with our dreams, with our vision, with what it is that we actually want for ourselves, and take a good look at why it is that we're not able to get out of our own damn way.